very much.
I'll have to listen to Cliff Barackman and watch a casting class.
B, stay with your clan. I told Charlie about the large.
Very strict.
Oh, thanks. Right on.
They get out of line. Have Arwen.
Oh, I got you.
Cliff, is there anything you need?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I need another place to do prints.
That's the line.
You all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I go ahead and start, Mark? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Footprints are extremely rare. Back when I was in the BFRO, the internal sightings database has something like 35,000 raw reports of sightings. Now, a lot of those are hoaxes, a lot of those are lies, a lot of those are questions or misinterpretations. But to give you an idea, so let's say 30,000 or something like that reports, there are about 300 footprint casts in the world. So it's 100 times as many reports as there are footprint casts. So these are extremely rare, basically. You don't really get an opportunity to find good footprints. And you certainly almost never have people, nobody has like material with them, usually when you're out there. So if you have an opportunity to cast something that you think might be a Bigfoot footprint, do it. When in doubt, cast it. Live by that rule. When in doubt, cast it. The worst case scenario, you cast something that's not a Bigfoot footprint, but you got more practice. Because if you don't practice it, you're going to blow it when it's the real deal. First thing you do when you find a footprint is you look for the next footprint. Because Sasquatches don't skydive down, hop once, and go to the next county. They walked there, and they walked away. Don't listen to the reports and say, oh, the track line just went there and stopped. Well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Maybe it's not a Bigfoot footprint. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they walked out in their own footprints, like if it's a snow situation. Maybe they're just wrong. Maybe they're lying. Who knows? But Bigfoots walk on the ground. They had to walk there. They had to walk out. If I found one footprint like this, I would look over this area, over this area. I would keep looking around in big circles until I found more sign of the Sasquatch walking there. You may not find it, but I guarantee you that Bigfoot walked there. What you want to do before you cast it is to document it as best you can. Always have a scale item with you of some sort. A dollar bill will work because all dollar bills are the same size. I prefer this, it's just much easier. What you want to do is first you lay down the measuring tape next to the footprint. You want to take 5 photographs of each print at least. You can take more if you want. It's best to identify each footprint as well. Like for example, print number 1. This is the only one around here. Like maybe I find some scuffles in the grass or something there. This is the only place that a footprint could be recorded. I only have 1, and that's a great job for me because it's easier than 72 like at the London site, you know? I photographed the situation around here. Where did it walk? Why did it go there? Because a footprint is not a footprint. It's a page in a book that tells a story. And this Sasquatch was here doing something for some reason. And it's our job to figure out what it is if we can. So gather as much information about the location as possible. In your field notebook, which you should all have with you at all times, write the date that you found it. How old do you think the footprint is? What are the weather conditions, temperature, precipitation, all that sort of stuff. The GPS coordinates, if you can get it. Draw a picture of the track line in your book. If you have the measurements, you don't need to do it to scale, but draw a picture. Record as much information as you can possibly think of. What sort of foods are in the bushes? What kind of animals were you seeing that day? Why was the Bigfoot here? You know? Now photograph each footprint at least 5 times. Videotape it. That's even better because that's 30 photographs every second, 30 frames per second. And you can go at different angles, and we can use now, using really cool technology, we can use those individual frames of the film to do a 3D reconstruction of the footprint itself and get even more information out of it. But if you don't have a videotape or a video camera, just use your regular camera. A picture from above, a picture from both sides, and then a picture from front and back. It kind of gives a nice little composite view of each footprint. It takes a little bit of time, but you know what? That's not going anywhere unless the weather conditions are ugly. Now, you also want to try to record step length and straddle and some other things, but again, I only have 1 footprint here, so there's no step length involved. But if I did find a scuffle in the grass over here or some push down something, I would try to figure out where the heel is and measure from the heel over to this heel and record that on my field notebook somehow, maybe on my drawing or however it makes sense to you. And I do that for every footprint thing I find. And there's also something else called straddle. I would, if you have a video camera, again, it's great just to go right over it, because straddle is how far off the center line the footprints are. Sasquatches, when they're really going somewhere, don't have a lot of straddle. They're almost right in front of one another. In humans, that's not really the case. When they're just moseying around, they do have a little bit more straddle. But those are all important measurements, and they can be used later. When it comes time to, after you've thoroughly documented it in your field notebook, then it's time to start thinking about casting this thing. I could always sit down and I look closely at the print and I'm thinking, okay, this is on a slight incline. The plaster is going to have a hard time staying in this, so I better build a dam of some sort. A lot of people choose to bring material out to the woods with them, like 2x4s or Venetian line strips, and they put a circle around it and stuff. I don't bother doing that so much because I figure if the ground's soft enough to record a footprint, it's soft enough for me to manipulate and make a dam, which is pretty much true. So I start mounding up dirt on the downhill side, so the plaster isn't going to run out and like basically waste my plaster and spill. Because there may be more footprints around, I need to record them. Something like that would pretty much probably do, especially if you use a splatter cast. But this one might be a little tough too because of that hill there where my arch is. Plaster hardens up with what is called an exothermic reaction. Exo meaning out, thermic meaning heat. That means it gives off heat as it dries up, basically. And it could burn you. So it's always good to have some latex on hand, like latex on hand, literally, latex gloves. It's good to have that around just in case you get burnt. I very often don't do that, and I've so far not been burnt, but you know, if I'm teaching you guys to do it, I don't want to teach you how to get burnt. Yeah, seriously. It's a good idea to do all this sort of stuff with latex gloves, and in a moment I will put those on when I show you what you do when it's time to put the plaster in the print. I kind of have in my mind, I want about 40% water, 60% powder. That's not science, and I'm not actually going to measure anything out. This is kind of my gut feeling eyeballing it, you know what I mean? And I cook the same way. I don't put 4 cups of anything in there. I just put some stuff in there until it looks like it's going to taste good, you know? But that's the kind of cook I am. That's also the kind of plaster casting kind of guy I am. So pour all this in there. As far as the material goes, by the way, use whatever you can get. A bad cast is better than no cast any day. I like using stuff called Hydrocal. There's a supplier near my house. It's easy for me to get. It may not be easy for you to get. Go to Home Depot. See if you can find this stuff called Fix-It-All. That stuff works great too. That Oklahoma print I had in my presentation was made out of stuff called Quickcrete. It did a great job. That's the only cast I've ever seen made out of that stuff. And he said, I guess this will work. And he tried it, and it did. It worked great. Plaster of Paris works too. It's not the best material in the world, but it's fine. Use it. Use whatever you can get. Again, a bad cast is better than no cast. You generally want your mixture to be the consistency of pancake batter. So practice by making some pancakes at home. If you don't have a mixing container is nice and everything, and you know those paint sticks you get at Home Depot for when you're painting the living room or something. Whenever I walk by that area, I always snag 4 or 5 of those, just so I have a bunch on hand for mixing purposes. But when I'm backpacking or something, what I bring out is a plastic bag, a gallon plastic bag filled with this stuff, like enough to do a footprint, basically. And I add the water directly to the bag, and I squish it around on the outside of the bag, and that's how I mix it up. And that way I can feel if there's any lumps inside there too, which is nice, because you don't want the lumps in there so much. Now this is a little thin, especially for that print actually, because of that hill there, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Yeah, see, because if it's too liquidy on a print like this, it's going to all slide.